Under the bright lights of Madison Square Garden, the atmosphere carried an electricity only heavyweight boxing can produce. Fans from Ukraine waved blue and yellow flags high above their heads, chanting the name of a man who had dominated an era. Across from them, Philadelphia grit pulsed through the air as American supporters roared for their hometown contender, Bryant "Bye-bye" Jennings, a man with merely 6 years in the sport, yet standing tonight before one of the most accomplished champions in heavyweight history. As both fighters stood in the ring announcers bellowed their names with the weight of legacy behind every echo. Wladimir Klitschko, Dr. Steel Hammer, stepped forward with the calm of a man who had ruled the division for nearly a decade, his expression a cold sculpture of experience, precision, and lethal efficiency. Jennings, meanwhile, bounced on his toes, eyes sharp, absorbing the moment, yet refusing to be drowned by it. When the referee gave final instructions, "Protect yourselves at all times, God bless you both," the arena seemed to shrink into a single pulsing heartbeat. Gloves touched, the bell rang, and the dance began. Jennings came out pawing, moving, searching for rhythm. Klitschko answered with that iconic piston jab, short, sharp, controlling the distance like a master setting the turns of engagement. Jennings immediately learned the weight of it, not power, but authority. Every time he tried to step inside, Klitschko met him with a jab, a frame, a clinch, anything to disrupt his path. Yet Jennings did not look intimidated. He slipped, rolled, dipped under shots, occasionally firing his own right hand over the top. And still, looming before him, was the terrifying reality that many challengers had felt. Klitschko was big, strong, disciplined, and frighteningly comfortable. Even in these early moments, the story was forming. Jennings would not be bullied, and Klitschko would not give his throne easily. As the rounds unfolded, a rhythm developed, a slow, tactical battle of wills layered beneath the booming chants of the crowd. Klitschko's jab was crisp, authoritative, almost mechanical in its precision. Every pump of that left hand kept Jennings from getting set, but the American contender had come prepared. His footwork was lively, circling, feinting, slipping outside the jab to create moments where he could dart forward with bursts of energy. In one sequence, Jennings dipped low, drove inside Klitschko's massive frame, and ripped a body shot that echoed in the arena. It didn't shake the champion, but it made one thing clear. Jennings was here to test him, to force him into a fight rather than a demonstration. Klitschko responded with a straight right down the pipe, a bolt of steel that snapped Jennings' head back and drew cheers from the Ukrainian crowd. Still, the challenger refused to fold. He kept pressing in unique angles, rolling under hooks, resetting, occasionally lifting his gloves to mockingly say, "You can't hurt me," even when everyone knew Klitschko could hurt anyone with a clean shot. Tension built as Jennings continued breaking the rhythm, forcing Klitschko to clinch more often than he preferred. For the first time in a while, Klitschko looked slightly uncomfortable, not in danger, but disturbed by a man who didn't behave like the typical challenger, freezing under his power. Round after round, the ebbs and flows shifted. Klitschko landed the cleaner shots, but Jennings landed the more surprising ones. The Ukrainian crowd roared when Klitschko cracked a left hook on Jennings' jaw. The American crowd roared back when Jennings slipped under a right and countered with a sharp punch to the body. By the fourth and fifth rounds, the fight was becoming exactly what no one expected, a chess match with grit mixed into every exchange. By the midpoint of the fight, something remarkable happened. Jennings began to grow, not in size, but in confidence. He found ways to neutralize Klitschko's rhythm, bobbing, weaving, squeezing inside, then ripping punches where most opponents simply froze. He aimed for the ribs, looping lefts, and digging rights whenever he managed to get past the champion's long arms. The more he tested the body, the more Klitschko began reacting with increased clinches, wrapping Jennings up the moment he got too close. The referee, Michael Griffin, noticed, and unlike many referees who allowed Klitschko's inside control to dominate, Griffin was stern. His commands echoed sharply. "Don't hold. Stop holding." Jennings' corner urged him on. "Keep working him. Keep moving your head. Stay in his chest." And Jennings listened. He fought with intensity, gritting through the champion's jab and leaning forward with determination. Meanwhile, Klitschko aimed to re-establish dominance with his straight right, his signature weapon, the one that ended nights for countless challengers. He landed it flush several times, snapping Jennings' head back, yet the American walked through those moments with quiet defiance. The crowd sensed the stakes rising. This was no walkover title defense. Klitschko was ahead, but Jennings was forcing him into deeper waters than expected. His energy, his head movement, his unpredictability, they disrupted the well-oiled machine that was Klitschko's style. By the sixth round, both men were fully engaged in a strategic war. Jennings jolted the champion with an overhand right, one of his best shots of the night, and the Garden crowd erupted. Klitschko responded moments later with a jolting uppercut that demanded respect. Sweat flew, emotions surged, and the narrative shifted from dominance to challenge. Jennings was no longer surviving. He was competing. As the fight entered the deeper rounds, tension increased, not just in the exchanges, but in the officiating. The referee's warnings escalated. Klitschko's clinches, long tolerated in other fights, were now being penalized. The crowd gasped when Griffin issued a point deduction for excessive holding, a rare crack in the armor of a champion known for mastering distance and tying opponents up. Jennings, fueled by the moment, surged forward. He ripped to the body, fired hooks upstairs, and snapped his own jab with renewed confidence. The American fans smelled possibility. The Ukrainian fans grew louder, urging their champion to assert control. For a moment, the fight felt on the edge of momentum swinging. Jennings attacked in bursts, darting into the pocket, unleashing a flurry, then slipping out with slick footwork. His right hand over the top began finding its home more often. His left hook landed cleanly enough to draw roars from the arena. And above it all, Klitschko's expression tightened, not panic, but irritation. He fired back with heavy artillery. His right hand cracked through Jennings's guard. His jab, though pressured, still stung every time it landed. A sharp left hook knocked Jennings off balance for a split second. Sweat flew with every clash. This was heavyweight boxing at its most demanding. Power meeting resilience, experience battling hunger. The referee's presence only added to the drama. Every moment Jennings burst inside, the crowd wondered if Klitschko would clinch again. Every clinch came with the fear of another point deduction. The Garden buzzed with uncertainty. Was the long-reigning champion losing control? Or was this simply the chaos of a challenger giving him his toughest test in years? Whatever the truth, the fight had now become something electric, a battle of adjustments, defiance, and pride. Through rounds 8, 9, and 10, the narrative continued tightening. Jennings, against all expectations, was not fading. He was pushing. He pressed forward with bursts of athleticism, driving Klitschko backward at moments when few fighters ever had. He landed a stiff overhand right that made the crowd gasp, followed closely by a snapping jab of his own. Klitschko, though composed, felt the urgency rise within him. The champion dug deep into his arsenal, planting his feet and launching a series of heavy right hands meant to reassert control. Some landed clean, sending shockwaves through the arena. But Jennings absorbed them, rolled with them, refused to wilt. The referee remained vigilant, stepping in repeatedly to warn Klitschko, "No more holding, I'm serious." And then came the shock. Another point deduction. The crowd erupted, disbelief and excitement mixing in equal measure. Suddenly, Jennings's corner lit up with energy. "You're right in this. Keep pressing. Keep that head moving," the voices shouted. Jennings responded with bursts of offense, digging lefts to the body, then springing upward with hooks that grazed Klitschko's jaw. Klitschko answered with a punishing jab, one of the hardest of the fight, knocking Jennings's head back in dramatic fashion. The Ukrainian flags waved wildly in response. Power met persistence, control met chaos. Klitschko's championship composure kept him steady, but Jennings's relentless determination made every second competitive. Each man had landed his best punches, each had felt the other's strength, and as the fight pushed toward the final championship rounds, the drama of the night was undeniable. Jennings wasn't just surviving, he was forcing one of the greatest heavyweights of the era to earn every inch of ground. When the final round arrived, the energy in Madison Square Garden felt like a storm tightening its swirl. Both men breathed heavily, their faces marked by the grind of 12 taxing rounds. Jennings, still bouncing on his toes, came out aggressive. He threw a chopping right hand, followed by a whipping left that grazed Klitschko's chin. The champion responded immediately, planting his feet and unleashing a thunderous straight right, one of the cleanest shots of the fight. The crowd erupted. Jennings shook his head defiantly, absorbing the blow with a fiery glare, then charged forward again. Klitschko pushed him back with a stiff jab. Jennings slipped under it, ripped a body shot, then came over the top with another looping right that landed flush. The arena exploded in emotion. Fans screaming, flags waving, tension peaking. Klitschko, ever the seasoned warrior, dug deep. He found space, measured distance, and fired another heavy right hand, followed by a short left hook inside. Sweat flew into the air with the impact. Jennings refused to retreat. He pressed forward again, punching in flurries, trying to break through in the final seconds. But Klitschko held his ground, circling, pumping jabs, timing uppercuts that snapped Jennings' head back. The two stood center ring in a battle of wills, power versus determination, experience versus hunger. The crowd rose to its feet. In the final 20 seconds, Klitschko unleashed a final combination. Right hand, left hook, right hand again, forcing Jennings to reset one last time. Jennings answered with a brave flurry, firing until the very last second. When the final bell rang, the fighters froze for a moment, then stepped forward and embraced, a gesture of respect earned the hard way. The arena roared in appreciation for a heavyweight contest that exceeded all expectations. As both fighters returned to their corners, the garden buzzed with anticipation. The bout had been more intense, more tactical, and more grueling than many expected. Klitschko, breathing deeply, stood tall as his corner removed his gloves. Jennings, chest heaving but eyes sharp, paced slowly as if replaying every exchange. The referee raised both men's wrists briefly before the ring announcer stepped forward with the scorecards. "Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards." The hush in the arena felt heavy. Then the announcement came. All three judges scored the fight for Wladimir Klitschko by unanimous decision. And still the unified heavyweight champion of the world. Ukrainian flags exploded into the air. The crowd thundered. Klitschko raised his gloves, victorious yet visibly relieved after one of his most demanding fights in years. Jennings looked on, not disappointed, but proud, knowing he had gone 12 hard rounds with an era-defining champion and proven he belonged on the world stage. Analysts later spoke of Klitschko's precision, his discipline, his ability to stay composed despite being pushed by a fighter with a fraction of his experience. They praised Jennings for his creativity, his movement, his refusal to fold under the weight of the challenge. The story of that night became more than the numbers. It became a testament to skill, heart, and the spirit of competition. Klitschko remained champion, but Jennings had earned respect worldwide. As the lights dimmed and fans poured into the New York streets, the memory of the battle stayed suspended in the air. A champion tested, a challenger rising, and the heavyweight division reminded once again why it will always be the theater of giants.